Welcome back to the flight deck, everybody. We are ready to taxi out to runway 23 right here at Manchester. The aircraft is up and going and everything is looking good. We will taxi down. It's not a far taxi. We're going to go to Delta to Bravo and then down to Juliet and out to Mike for our departure here today. As we taxi out, we'll discuss the route and how we're getting down to London. Alright, brakes are released. And we are starting our taxi. So the thing about these round engines is they have a bad spot with their RPMs. So you don't want to get in the in that teens, 1200 to about 1700. We'll actually go down Papa here. You can get some pretty bad vibrations start up on the engines, and everything really starts shaking. You can notice it, so try to avoid that as we taxi out and keep the engines down. You also don't want to be going too fast. This is an old airplane and it's got squeaky brakes, so she makes a lot of noise but doesn't tend to stop very quickly, so you're going to want to watch that. So keep the engines under control. Don't try to drop them too much below 1,000 or 1,000 RPM. And you can use the brakes to help control your speed a little bit as you go. So we're going to head down to Kilo, and then we will taxi along. As we approach holding point Mike for the runway, we will have Fred do our before takeoff checks, so that we are ready to go. We do have traffic running here. We can see Ryanair and EasyJet and all that good stuff kicking around here. So here's Kilo. So we'll get her around the corner. There we go. Oh, looks like we got to go around. So if we come back and take a look at our engine RPMs, you can see they're sitting slightly low actually. Get them up to about 1,000. Doesn't take a lot of movement on the throttles, and they do lag a little bit, so you're gonna have to watch that. But keeping around 1,000 keeps the oil pressure and fuel pressure up. You can see we got a fuel warning, so I'm just gonna move 3 and 4 up slightly. We should get that pressure warning light to go out. Should eventually. And again, you don't want to be going too fast either. So this is Mike coming up. We'll come down, we'll hit the brakes, we'll do a quick system review to make sure everything is good to go, and then we'll have them set up the aircraft for departure. We'll also talk about the gyro pilot before we take off. Alright, so here we are. We can come down, take a look at our temperatures and pressures. We're all good. Everything is looking fine. Nothing out of the ordinary. All the engines are reading good. RPMs and manifold pressures are reading good. We can come up top. Everything is looking good here. We're on the main fuel tanks, which are almost full, and that is all good there. GPS is set up and ready to go. We are in GPS mode, which is good. And the VORs are in. There's the Trent VOR and the Honolulu VOR is set. I believe I got that set right. Let me just double check. Trent 1157, and then the Honolly should be 11365. Okay, that is set good. And we can talk about the GPS. So if you haven't flown this before, it has a gyro GPS unit here. A couple things you have to do is, this is the on switch. This is the engage. It will lock the gyros into the flight control system. We have an altitude hold switch here, which you just have to flick it up and it holds the altitude. And you have a selector here. So you've got gyro pilot, which means that it will hold wings level, and then you can use this to turn it left and right. You have localizer, so if you had a localizer tuned in, say the Trent VOR, you could follow the radial in using that. For us with the GPS is when we go to localizer with the GPS unit on GPS mode, it will follow the GPS. And then we have approach mode for the ILS, which we'll be using when we come into London itself. So I think we're already there. Let's come down and do the before takeoff checklist.
Boost pumps. Boost pumps on low. Fuel selector and crossfeed. Main tanks and crossfeed off. Autopilot and carb heat. Off and cold. Hydraulic system. Down, forward, pressure and quantity checked. Okay. Flaps 20. Flaps set to 20. Windows and turbine. Closed and on. Controls. Dust lock released. Free. Potato. On. Mixture and cowl flaps. Reach unlocked. Set. Transponder. On. Landing lights. Extended and on. Before takeoff checks complete.
So one last thing we're going to take a look at. We're going to look at our gross weight, which is 69,000 pounds. Anything 92,000 and higher, we use what's called a wet takeoff, or if you're on a short runway and you need more power, basically it injects water into the cylinders, which increases your available power output, but extended use can damage the aircraft. So you only use it limited times and for limited lengths of time. Approach path is clear. We are good to move out. So brakes are released. The engine's at 1,000 RPM. We're just going to start rolling. So the way the aircraft takes off is you come on the brakes, manual braking, full brakes, and then the engines are run up to take off power while the brakes are on, and then you release the brakes and away you go. Aircraft out there pretty far. We'll see what happens. We should be able to get off okay. I know over here in North America, the closer runway is used for departure and the farther one for landing. They seem to do it backwards here, but that's fine. Alright, so we are lined up. So brakes are on, and we are going to do a dry takeoff, no water injection.
30 inches stabilize. 30 inches stabilize.
Alright, so you can watch the power coming up. It's going to bring the power up to 30 inches. So there's that shaking from that range that you don't want to sit in. Engines are coming up. Going to stabilize everything. They're going to do a quick check.
30 inches stabilized. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps set. Full power, please. Going full power.
It's going to be about 54 inches. There we go.
Full power set.
Full power set. So we're going to release the brakes. We're going to use the rudders to keep ourselves straight. And we're going to rotate at about 100 knots. We're then going to try to get her to sit at about 120 before we engage the gyro pilot. She does have a tendency to nose down when you engage it, so we're going to have to watch that. But everything else is looking good so far. Alright, we're through 100 knots, so back on the stick.
Auxiliary, gear up. Gear selected up.
Gears coming up. There's the aircraft taking off on 2-3 left, across from us.
Gear up, lights out.
Alright, so we're going to try to trim to about 120.
Flaps going up.
Flaps are coming up, so we're going to increase. We're going to let the speed slowly build to 140. There's 10-degree flap. Nose is going to drop slightly.
Meter power. Setting meter power, 48 inches, 2600 RPM.
Meter power is maximum continuous power. We're going to bring the nose up, try to get her to about 140. We want to climb at about 160 once we go into cruise power. We can come down now. We're going to turn on the gyro,
Meter power set.
engage.
Climb power.
Alright, she's
Climb power.
pretty good. And now we can come over here and go to localizer, and that's going to bring in the turn. And we are now turning on to our next waypoint heading, which is this one here as we head out. We want to keep that 160. You can hear the engine scrolling back as we come to cruise power setting, or climb power setting.
Climb power set. After takeoff checklist, please.
Alright, so there's VOR 1 is the thin needle, so we should be going to push towards that.
After takeoff checks complete.
And that's our referencing here. Alright, so our after takeoff checklist is complete. We're going to want to roll the dial here. It's our pitch dial forward. We want to get to 160 for the climb. So we're just going to roll it forward a couple notches, watch where it goes. Roll it forward, watch where it goes. We're going to be making a bit of a turn once we get down a little bit more, so we're not too worried about the fact that it's angling off the other way. So we're just below 160. We'll notch down 2 more times, and now if we come down here, we have DME, distance measuring equipment. So we're on VOR 1, and it's showing we're 25.5 miles away from it. 25.4. That's the Trent VOR. We come over to number 2. That's the Honolulu VOR. That's the other one. It's 58.4 miles away. This will also give us our ground speed currently and our time to target. So we're going to leave it on 1 so we get that count down. And that is the thin needle. The thick needle is the Honolulu VOR, our second one. So our speed's a little fast. So we'll come back a little bit more. Again, we're going to 11,000 feet. There's our turn. We're now heading down towards the waypoint Listo, which of course we don't have as a waypoint in the system. Since we're not following waypoints, we're just going to VORs. Well, we can do a quick check. Flaps are retracted, gear is up, Everything is looking good. Engine power is equal across the engines. Manifold pressures are equal across all four. RPMs are equal across all four. We're looking good down here. Fuel flow is looking pretty equal across all four. Temperatures and pressures are all looking good as well. Alright, so we're going to move the pad out of the way. We can look out across the hills here. You will hear switches clicking and flicking, and that is Fred, the flight engineer, doing his thing. So we're going to come back one more notch. We're climbing fairly quickly. We are empty, so we are a fairly light airplane at this point in time. If we wanted, we could dial in the radial that we're technically following. This is our for the radial localizer, but it's also our glide slope for the ILS system. It's going to drift off since we're not actually on it yet. There's 9,000 feet. It will climb slower when we are heavily loaded, and we're now going to turn roughly on a 106 degree heading out towards the TNT VOR, the Trent VOR. So you can see us following along. She will do a little bit of back and forth as we come through, but everything else will be good. Alright, so 1,000 to go. What we're going to do is we're going to slowly edge down on the pitch wheel to bring our rate of climb down. We'll start that now. That's going to allow our speed to come up, but it's also going to bring our feet per minute climb rate down, and we want it to be under 300 feet per minute when we engage the altitude hold, and that way she doesn't get a sudden jerk as she's trying to capture it from a steep angle. And we'll just slowly bring her down as we come up towards that 11,000 feet. There's 900. Bring it down a little bit more. At 11,000. So altitude hold on. We're going to hold at 11,000 feet. Speed's coming up, so we can do our cruise checklist.
Set cruise power, please. Setting cruise power.
Now, one of the things about cruise power is we're going to go into an auto lean mixture setting. So you'll see the fuel consumption drop. Right now we're just pulling back the power, getting that set to where we want to be. And you'll hear it as he goes into each engine separately. You'll see it drop for each one. So manifold pressure is back, RPMs are back. So we're burning about 660 gallons an hour, or 660 pounds of fuel an hour. You can see the needles dropping.
Cruise checks are complete.
There we go. So we're now in auto lean. So we're just burning as much fuel as we need to keep the engines going. So here we are flying over the Midlands of England. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll come back and join you for the arrival procedures and landing into London. See you on the next one.